It was a quiet evening in space, or as quiet as it could be for a lone explorer navigating the fringes of a distant star cluster. The darkness of space stretched endlessly, punctuated only by the distant lights of stars and the occasional shimmer of a nebula. His ship, though modest, was well-equipped, outfitted for months of solitary exploration and research. It wasn't particularly fast, nor was it a beauty by any means, but it had held up through many adventures. And for a man used to keeping himself company, this was enough. He was just reviewing his navigation charts when a shrill beep cut through the silence. The screen in front of him lit up, flashing with an incoming distress signal. Frowning, he tapped the screen, letting the message filter through his speakers. The signal was faint, the message garbled with static, but he could make out enough to tell that someone was in serious trouble. Under attack, engines failing, request IM. The message cut off, leaving an ominous silence in its place. It wasn't uncommon for pirates to haunt the outer reaches of this star cluster, preying on unarmed ships and defenseless travelers. His heart quickened at the thought. Helping strangers was dangerous in a sector like this. But his conscience wouldn't let him turn away. He quickly set a course, following the distress signal to its source. As his ship drew closer, the scene before him took shape. A sleek, elegant craft was locked in a frantic battle with a group of pirate vessels. The ambushing ships were battered but fierce, with rusty edges and weapons patched together from a dozen different models. Their target, however, was different. Its lines were smooth and graceful, and even under fire, it held an air of dignity and sophistication. He didn't have much in the way of firepower, but he did have his wits. He quickly activated his ship's remaining countermeasures, sending a flurry of sensor distortions to confuse the pirates. As he'd hoped, a few of them broke away from the main attack, scanning for the source of the interference. Their momentary distraction was enough. He watched, heart in his throat, as the distressed ship's shields flickered back to life. With a few precise blasts, the elegant craft's weapons came online, forcing the remaining pirates to retreat. Once the danger had passed, he received a message from the ship he had just saved. A holographic image appeared on his screen, and he found himself looking at 4 alien women, each breathtaking in her own way. Their species were as distinct as their appearances. One had skin that shimmered with an iridescent glow, another wore elaborate headpieces woven with silvery threads, and each one carried an aura of dignity that marked them as beings of status and power. "Thank you, human," said the one in the center, her voice soft but firm. "Without your interference, we would surely have fallen into the hands of those pirates. You have our gratitude." "Just doing what anyone would," he replied, feeling uncharacteristically self-conscious under their gazes. "Are you all right?" "Yes," said another, her voice warmer, almost musical. "Thanks to you, we are unharmed. My name is Lyra, and these are my companions, Mira, Naya, and Iona. We are travelers on a diplomatic mission. It seems we underestimated the dangers of this sector. It's rough out here," he admitted. "Where were you headed?" They exchanged glances, as if sharing a silent conversation, before Lyra spoke again. "We were on our way to a diplomatic conference, but it seems our ship is in need of repairs." He hesitated for only a moment before offering, "I know a nearby space station where you can dock for repairs. I can guide you there." Their relief was palpable, and soon the two ships were moving through space together, heading toward the station. As they traveled, he found himself in the company of the 4 women more often than he'd anticipated. Each day, they would appear on his screen, sharing stories of their worlds, their cultures, and the responsibilities they carried. It was impossible not to be enchanted by them. Lyra was poised and graceful, with a quiet strength that spoke of a leader's heart. Mira was curious and clever, always eager to learn about human customs and quirks. Naya had a quiet, mysterious charm, her words often cloaked in poetic riddles. And Iona was vivacious and unguarded, with a laugh that lit up even the dullest parts of the journey. The days passed quickly, filled with laughter and late-night conversations. He showed them how to cook simple earth meals, and they shared tales of grand festivals and battles, weaving stories as vibrant as the stars. It was strange, but he felt a kinship with each of them that he couldn't quite explain. One evening, as they drifted in the serene quiet of space, Lyra's image appeared on his screen. She was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "You've shown us a kindness that is rare in this part of the galaxy," she said softly. "Among our people, It is custom to repay such debts. There's no need, he replied, smiling. I only did what was right. And yet, each of us feels a pull toward you that cannot be denied, Mira added, appearing beside Lyra. Her gaze was intense, searching. In my culture, we believe that such bonds are a sign of destiny. Before he could respond, Naya appeared as well, her eyes distant and thoughtful. It is rare for a being from another world to resonate with one of us, let alone four. We cannot ignore this connection. Finally, Iona joined them, her expression playful but earnest. Perhaps the universe brought us together for a reason. And in my culture, we follow the call of the heart, wherever it may lead. The meaning of their words dawned on him slowly, and he felt his face heat. Wait, are you? Yes, Lyra replied, her voice unwavering. Each of us has chosen you as a life partner, and we wish for you to choose among us. He stared, speechless, as the weight of their words settled over him. Each of them wanted him, each in her own way, and each was willing to make him a part of her life. It was overwhelming, exhilarating, and utterly confusing. I don't know what to say, he stammered. Then let us spend more time together, Naya suggested gently. Learn who we are, as we have learned who you are. And in time, perhaps the choice will be clear. He agreed, though the decision weighed on him heavily. The following days were filled with moments that blurred the lines between friendship and something deeper. Lyra would visit him with questions about his home, her interest genuine and warm, her words filled with the promise of a stable, loving partnership. Mira, on the other hand, challenged him, sparking conversations that ranged from philosophy to science, her wit and curiosity intoxicating. Naya was a mystery he couldn't unravel, but he found himself drawn to her quiet wisdom and the way her words lingered in his mind long after she had gone. And Iona, ever the free spirit, brought laughter and joy to his days, her energy a balm to his soul. Each of them touched him in a way he couldn't fully understand, but in the quiet moments, he found himself wondering which path he should take. Could he choose one without hurting the others? Or was there a way to embrace them all, to share a life that defied convention? On their final evening before reaching the station, they gathered in his quarters, the atmosphere tinged with a quiet tension. Lyra was the first to speak, her gaze steady. Have you made your decision? He took a deep breath, searching each of their faces. I don't know how to choose. Each of you has shown me a part of the universe I never knew existed. I can't imagine a life without any of you. They exchanged glances, and to his surprise, they each smiled. In some cultures, a union need not be limited to two, Mira said softly. We would be willing to share a life with you, together. Lyra nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. We are connected, each of us, and we are willing to create a bond that honors all of us. Overwhelmed, he felt a rush of gratitude and wonder. The universe had brought them together, against all odds, and now they were offering him a life unlike anything he had ever imagined. He took their hands, one by one, and each felt like a promise of a future filled with love, adventure, and unity beyond words. As they made their way toward the space station, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as one. Their arrival at the space station was greeted with the usual stir of curiosity that accompanied anyone not native to that sector. The inhabitants were mostly traders, engineers, and travelers with little interest in the formalities of alien diplomats and their Earth-born companion. But for the human, who was unused to being at the center of attention, the glances and whispers made him self-conscious. Lyra, sensing his discomfort, moved to his side, her hand resting on his shoulder with a reassuring warmth. Remember, she said softly, they look not out of judgment, but out of wonder. He met her eyes, struck again by the depths of her empathy. As they moved through the crowded station, he marveled at the ways in which each of his companions seemed to navigate their surroundings with ease and purpose. Mira led the way, speaking to vendors and gathering supplies, her diplomatic skills weaving together any rough edges they encountered. Naya drifted quietly behind, her gaze always roving, as if drinking in every detail. And Iona, ever the charmer, exchanged jokes and laughter with anyone willing, her joy contagious. Over the next few days, they settled into a rhythm on the station. Repairs to the alien craft were underway, and with a little time on their hands, they found themselves wandering through markets, exchanging stories over meals, and sharing small moments that felt almost too precious to name. One evening, as they sat in a quiet corner of the station's recreational deck, Mira leaned toward him, her eyes sparkling with a question. "Tell me about your world. What do you miss most about it?" He hesitated, feeling a pang of homesickness he hadn't acknowledged in a long time. "I think it's the small things. I miss the sound of rain, the way the air smells right after a storm. I miss looking up at the stars from Earth and wondering what's out here." Naya's eyes softened as she listened. It's rare to find someone who looks at the universe with such awe. You see it not as a conquest, but as a mystery. He glanced at her, struck by her insight. "I suppose that's what drew me to exploration in the first place. I didn't come out here to conquer. I came to understand." Iona laughed, her voice filling the space like a burst of music. "Well, you're in good company, then. We've traveled the stars not for conquest either, but for connection. Each of us has given up something to be here." At that, Lyra's face grew thoughtful. "In my culture, to leave one's home and travel the stars is considered a sacred duty. But it's also a sacrifice. I've often wondered if I'd chosen differently, if there would have been a simpler life waiting for me." "Then why did you leave?" he asked, curiosity and something deeper in his tone. Her gaze met his, filled with layers of emotion he couldn't yet decipher. "Because the universe holds too many wonders to ignore. And because I had a feeling, deep down, that my destiny lay not in staying, but in reaching for something beyond myself." He felt a shiver run through him at her words. Destiny, connection, understanding. It was as if their paths had been meant to intertwine, each of them searching for something they hadn't even known they were missing. Their time on the station continued in this way, with small moments that wove them closer together, until it felt as if they were no longer separate individuals but parts of a larger whole. The day before their repairs were set to finish, Lyra gathered them all in a quiet room, the glow of distant starlight filtering through the observation windows. "I've spoken with my people," she began, her voice carrying a quiet strength. "They are willing to welcome you among us, should you choose to join me." He felt his heart leap, but before he could respond, Mira spoke. "As have I," she said, her tone serious but her eyes warm. "You would be welcomed among my people, a rare honor for an outsider." Naya nodded next, her gaze holding the weight of tradition. "To bond with a soul from another world is a cherished rarity among my kind. You would be regarded as an equal." Finally, Iona grinned, her expression mischievous. "And with my people, you'll have the time of your life. We live with passion and purpose, and there will always be a place for you at our side." It was overwhelming, this convergence of possibilities, each one inviting him to a life unlike anything he had ever imagined. For a moment, he simply looked at them, each offering a piece of herself and her world. He knew there was no way he could choose one without leaving a part of himself behind. "I don't think I can decide," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not when each of you has given me so much." They exchanged glances, and once again, to his amazement, he saw understanding in their eyes. Lyra stepped forward, taking his hand in hers. "Then let us make a new path, one that honors each of us." The others joined her, each taking his hand, their expressions filled with a unity that bridged the differences between them. Together, they stood in the quiet glow of starlight, feeling the weight of their choice settle around them. It was unconventional, even in their varied cultures, but they were willing to create something new, something that defied expectations and brought together the pieces of each of their worlds. The next day, they boarded the now-repaired ship, their course set for the stars. As they drifted away from the station, he felt a strange peace settle over him, a sense of belonging he had never known before. The journey ahead would not be easy. They would face the challenges of blending cultures, bridging distances, and overcoming the doubts of those who would question their choice. But he felt certain that with each of them beside him, they could build a life as vast and beautiful as the universe itself. And as they traveled together through the darkness of space, laughter and conversation filling the quiet, he realized that he had finally found what he had been searching for all along. Not just a home, but a family forged by the stars, bound together by the unbreakable ties of love and destiny. As they journeyed through the endless tapestry of stars, life on the ship began to take on a familiar rhythm. Days passed in laughter and learning, each of them revealing new layers to one another, their connection growing deeper with every shared story and quiet look. They were no longer just travelers. Each one had become essential to the others. And the human felt, perhaps for the first time in his life, that he had found a place where he belonged. On quiet nights, when the ship's lights were dimmed and the vastness of space stretched out before them, he would sit by the main viewport, often joined by one or more of the women. They would speak softly, sharing thoughts and dreams. In these moments, he could feel the weight of their commitment, an unspoken bond they had chosen to honor. One evening, Lyra joined him, her presence calm and strong. She sat beside him in silence for a while, watching the stars drift by. Finally, she turned to him, her gaze steady. "There is a ceremony in my culture," she began. "A bonding ritual that signifies unity of spirit and purpose. It is a pledge, not only of loyalty but of the desire to share one's journey with another." He looked at her, captivated. Would you want that?" "Yes," she said softly, her hand brushing against his. "But only if we all agree. This bond we have, it is as much with each other as it is with you." As if summoned by her words, Mira, Naya, and Iona soon joined them, each carrying the same quiet resolve. Mira looked at them with a grin, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "So, are we finally doing this?" Naya smiled, her expression serene. "A union among five is rare but not unheard of. It requires trust, patience, and understanding." Iona laughed, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. "Well, I think we've got those covered, don't we?" He felt a rush of emotions, a mix of awe and gratitude, and nodded. "I've never felt more certain of anything." The next morning, they began preparations. The bonding ritual would be a blend of their traditions, each one contributing a piece of her culture to create something new. Lyra prepared a meditative space filled with crystals that hummed with her people's unique energy frequencies. Mira brought herbs and symbols from her homeland, each one representing a different aspect of connection: honesty, loyalty, courage. Naya crafted delicate garlands woven from fibers that glowed faintly under starlight, a symbol of the eternal ties they were forging. And Iona set up a ring of small lights, bright and vibrant, to represent the joy and passion they shared. The ceremony was simple but profound, each of them stepping forward to share a piece of themselves, pledging to honor the unity they had found. When it was his turn, he took a deep breath, his voice steady. "I came to the stars to find purpose," he began. "But I found something greater. You each have shown me that connection transcends words, transcends species. I choose to walk this path with each of you, as your partner, your friend, and your family." One by one, they took his hands, echoing his promise. The words were different, each spoken in her own language, but the meaning was the same. They had chosen one another. As the last words faded, the space around them seemed to hum with a quiet, radiant energy. They stood in a circle, hands joined, feeling the strength of their bond. Their journey continued, marked now by a closeness that even the vastness of space couldn't shake. They explored worlds together, faced challenges together, always united in purpose and love. Each new experience strengthened the ties between them, until they were no longer five separate beings but one family, moving through the cosmos as a single, unbreakable force. Years passed, and their legend grew. Travelers from all corners of the galaxy spoke of the human and the four alien women who had defied convention to create a life bound by love. Some called it destiny, others called it a miracle. But for them, it was simply the life they had chosen. And as they continued their journey through the stars, they knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together. Bound by love, by unity, and by the unbreakable ties of the universe, they had forged a new path. A path that would live on long after their time, as a testament to the power of love that crossed all boundaries, enduring forever in the heart of the cosmos.